Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we talk about the TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead World Beyond. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we open up with Leo talking to the other scientists about everything that's going down, and they have to make a move. We have to not only escape here, we have to make sure that they're not able to replicate our research, and we got to take it with us. And obviously it comes down to the situation of yeah, but you're not just talking about you're talking about an escape plan and all this, and it's yes, but the fact of the matter is, if they stay here, they're going to be complicit with everything that the CRM does going forward. They've already committed a genocide. They're going to continue further genocide. So it's we can't let this stand. The fact of the matter is, if we stay here, we're going to be complicit with what they do, or they'll kill us for knowing what we know, and if we cause too much of an issue. So you can stay here and be okay with everything and continue to let your research be used to kill people, or we take a chance on trying to escape and get away from all of this. So they're enacting their plan. Obviously, Jennifer's talking to Dennis, they're getting locked and loaded, bringing supplies back. She's she can only... It's only going to be a matter of time before her constant disappearing when she's supposed to be on patrol gets suspicious. So before she leaves Dennis, because at the end of it, it's because neither her nor Dennis knows if either one of them is going to make it out of this situation. It's maybe we'll decide out what happens if we're both alive after this. We'll figure after all of that where they stand, how this all plays out, because Jennifer knows if anything leads them back to Dennis, they won't hesitate to kill them. We know how they operate, and so. But it's a risk that he's willing to take to try to do the right thing. And even Jennifer, before she leaves, talked to Silas, once again, I'll tell you it again, I didn't bring you here because he was my husband. I brought you here, and Silas is he's a good man, I know. She's hate me all you want to, but you have to trust me. I mean, the rest of the team kind of trust her as well. But obviously, it's that, even Dennis and Silas had that conversation going forward about, right, so you knew about Omaha, but you didn't tell me anything, because you're them. He wanted to believe, Dennis was a good guy, but what the others said got in his head of, he didn't know about, because I think what also changed, now realizing, Huck is his wife, it's of course, it makes me second, because it's right, we trusted Huck for so long, and then she killed people, even to the point, attempted to kill Percy, but obviously killed his uncle, and made me believe that I'm the one that actually did it. So she, then the, manipulation, just being there in the community for so long, pretending to be a friend and an ally while being on a secret mission and all that. Once again, it is that complicated thing of people who are about this, who are all about it. It's a cult. As Dennis kind of basically described what the CRM is. It's CR in general. It's kind of like a cult. They believe so strongly in something. He's when you come to them, you're lost, and they basically give you a purpose and point you in the right direction. And even Silas, I don't know what he meant by necessarily this remark. He was you were leading me down that road too. So I guess it's right, you were prepping me to basically go down the CR route. You wanted me to go down the CR route. But then Dennis was no, you were lost. Essentially, you were lost like I was. So basically the CR gives you a purpose. That's why Jadis is the way she is, because... Well, to be fair, she's been moving from one place to another ever since her entire community died. She tried to join up with Rick and them, and she used Rick as a bargaining chip to solidify her own position. So she's all about this now. But it also showcases you jump your beliefs and jump communities you're so hot and cold, essentially, in the wise words of Katy Perry. But it's you flip-flop so much. But I guess, to be fair, you've been all about this for a couple of years now, because it's been a while since you dropped off Rick, and you've been working your way up the rank. But it's just just seeing how dedicated she is to this. But it's because she was just like them. She was lost. She had nothing at the end of it. She could have stayed behind, but she wanted something more. And now, she has a lot more. She's all about the future. But it's also you have your selfish reasons of this isn't for the greater cause. It's no, you're in a position where you have power. You feel you're no longer that lonely person that you were raising that small community of yours in the junkyard anymore. You've leveled up, essentially. So I think there's a selfish aspect of that drives you, not just your belief. Maybe you've got sucked into the cult belief of right, I'm part of this larger thing, but it's no, there's that selfish desire to be in a powerful position as well. So all the while this is happening, Will comes back to let Indira know about her son. And Adira doesn't blame Will. She's like, right, my son was only out there because of me. He was trying to get me medicine. And she ends up admitting everything in front of the rest of the community. Like, right, I made a deal with Elizabeth, the lieutenant colonel, 2 years ago. And we got to see that scene. And the thing is, Elizabeth was like, no, like, I want you in that position because for one, who knows, like, who your predecessor will be. But also, like, I like you and I want you to kind of stick around. Like, you need to be there kind of for your children and stuff like that. You know, it's like, I don't want your children to have to go through what me and Jennifer had to go through when it came to her father. So Elizabeth was like, oh, no, there's no strings attached. You'll be kind of doing me a favor by sticking around. But in the end, Indira kind of is like, right, I was selfish. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to die. Like, even though I was ready to fall on my sword, like the moment she offered that, I was like, kind of like, no, but then immediately I let her talk me into it because truth be told, I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. And I knew that she could give me the opportunity to be here, not just for myself, but for my community, but also for my children. And she regrets it. It's like, my son is dead because of my selfish decision back then. Like, who knows where we'd be right now? But I think the community would be worse off without you. I mean, who knows where things would stand if they didn't have Indira? But that's also the point for, like, Home Dude who's trying to take over everything. What was his name? Who cares? He's the bastard that betrayed the group. But you know, for him, it's like she signed their death warrants the moment she made a deal. And, you know, not only made that side deal with Elizabeth, but also was working with all of them to bring the CRM down. It's like, no. You marked us for death. So he ends up selling them out later on, just being like, yo, I'm a do this. I'm going to look out for myself. Just like she made a deal. You know, it's like, right, you're going to kill your entire community. But it's like, no. You know, it's like he wanted to make it seem like, oh, he had the community's best interests at heart. It's like, no, you're making sure you survive. It's like, none of this would have freaking happened if he hadn't gone to Jadis and ran his mouth off. He didn't tell on Jennifer because he wanted to use that as a blackmail card, or like, right, get me into the CR. And she's like, I don't have the power and position to do that, because if I do, there's going to be a whole bunch of questions about, like, what, you know, it's like, it doesn't work like that. He's like, oh, and then I'm going to rat you out. So Jennifer ended up having to pop him and then kind of say, like, oh, he was threatening that he knew about Omaha. So he was threatening to expose that to, like, screaming from the rooftops. So he was the threat and trying to say, like, Indira and her people aren't. But Jadis is like, no, Indira and him were threats. So Indira still needs to be removed from the equation, even to the point she's talking to Indira and, you know, talks about, like, right, I know what it's like to grow like a, you know, you're an artist, and I know what it's like to grow like a small community, but then a larger community comes up and swallows yours. And then it is a situation of they learn to adapt. Basically, with the CRM, we see the bigger picture. We see the world for the way it is. Your community, you in particular, can't see the world for what it is. Like, everything we're doing is for this bigger, greater cause. Once again, because even Dennis said, like, the CRM believes that, or the CR in general believes that they are setting the standards for 500 years in the future. Because the CR doesn't know everything that CRM is all doing, but the CRM is just the most extremist beliefs of the CR. So I wonder, does the CR believe in, like, no, let's not invite people in, let's keep it here? Or is that just like General Bell's, like, mentality of just like, let's keep this tight knit and just try to keep buy up all the resources so that the CR, because the CR has to live for the next 500 years and continue this research and stuff like that. The CR has to be the Jerusalem, I guess, in this situation. I mean, as I've described before, I guess the more apt description would be, it is Noah's Ark. It is the next ark, and we have to put everything. So if any sacrifices to any larger communities have to be removed because we don't want them being folded into it and causing a ruckus, we could also use their supplies. It's being wasted on them. We need to sacrifice them for the 500 years in the future where this could all play out, where the CR continues to grow and be and exist and become an ecosystem of its own and survive the next 500 years and bring it into everything. It's like, will it all, you know, when you have, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, every country has their bloodied past about mistakes of, like, yeah, I wished I hadn't done, you know, so, but still, to go as far as they are, wiping out full-blown communities, thousands of lives, just for their own purpose of, like, yeah, there's enough room in the world, but I guess it's like, there aren't enough resources. Once again, I always find it interesting considering, like, at least the CRM sees people as a resource, but that they are also disposable, because it's like, once again, Negan didn't have that perspective. He had the perspective of like, I'd be so curious, like Negan's way of the saviors versus like the CR, like how that perspective would have like played out, and even like how Negan would view the CR, because once again, The Walking Dead hasn't really had much crossover with them. Fear potentially had its last crossover like with the CR. Potentially that story's ending now. Who knows if it'll rear its head anymore with the whole Al and Isabel situation, but we'll see. But other than that, circling back into things, Will did try to talk to Indira about, like, right, for him, he's like, everything he ever does is because he sees a future of him and Felix having a life together, being married, like having children, and he's like, yeah, it might be selfish because everything I do works towards that purpose, but he's like, I don't think it was necessarily wrong to think like that. And he's like, you wanting to live, you dreaming about a life and wanting to live, like, I don't think that's wrong either. Everything you did for your children, so basically don't beat yourself up of what happened. Like, it's sad, I'm sorry, you know, it sucks things happen the way they did with Deb, but at the end of the day, you did everything for your children as well, being in it. You know, any person would be selfish in that regard of wanting to be there for their children, so don't act like you're just some monster for what you're doing. And that ended up being a conversation too with Leo about like monsters. It's like, right, we're here to like stop the monsters, because it's not just the dead, it's the CRM that are monsters as well. I mean, we've seen time and time again how humans can be even bigger monsters than the dead are. You know, once again, you're so busy trying to be the cure to the disease, you might be spreading a virus of your own, you know, so it's interesting too, because Leo was talking to Jennifer, and Jennifer's like sorry about like what Jadis made her do about Lila, and you know, Leo's like, right, she did at her own choices led that to that point, even saying like he wished he had killed her with his own hands, and Jennifer was like, no you don't, because that would have haunted him, like, you know, because regardless of anything how he felt, Lila was the person he did care about her, and that's why it hurt so much, is because he cared about her and found out not only was she betraying his trust, but also she was behind all this terrible stuff. Like I said, she's just like anyone else. Like, she let the CRM kind of warp her perspective on things. You know, once you're in the middle of that, when you're lost, which she had lost her husband and her daughter, like, you know, Leo was lucky enough that, yeah, he lost his wife, but he still had both of his daughters that he was fighting for. So he has perspective in this situation that Lila didn't. I mean, the other scientists who know if, like, they have families or just the general principle, like, yeah, like, they're not warped enough by their experiences to make them lost, that when the CR brought up this, you know, opportunity, well, the CRM brought up this opportunity Lila jumped at. It still makes me feel bad for her, you know, understanding, like, despite all the terrible things she did, it does not justify it, but understanding what was at the heart of what it was. It was trauma for the fact that she couldn't save her husband and daughter, like, not despite everything she could, like, this was an opportunity, like, I can't save my child and daughter, but I can save future generations. I could potentially help save the world by doing what I'm doing. So, like, you know. But because of Jennifer's help, they enacted the plan. They knew they had to jump on it immediately because Jadis was getting suspicious of, like, right, the other scientists were, like, looking at key cards and stuff like that. Like, the scientists weren't where they supposed to be, so she was getting suspicious. So luckily they all, like, because of the lockdown protocols, they all hid themselves in that room, including Hope, Iris, Leo, and Mason and Felix. And yeah, they like tie Mason up because, like, right, he was always a necessary piece of this, being General Bill's child. He can be used as leverage. The thing is, Hope hasn't explained everything to him, because at first he's like, whoa, what are these walkers, like, what are they doing here? And it's like, yeah, he's like, if there was something going on, my dad would know about it. And Hope kind of looks away. He's like, wait, is that what this is about? You're using me against my dad? He's like, oh, you're gonna kill me? And Hope is like, no one's going to hurt you. But Iris has kind of got that look of, like, if we need to, we will. Granted, they don't want to hurt him because, well, they'll hurt him, but they don't want to kill him because he's their leverage. I'm curious what his perspective would be on things if Hope told him the truth. Like, do you know what this is all about? You know, Omaha? That was your dad's orders. What? No, it's like, yes, he's creating a virus to, like, kill people. This is all for the purpose. But I'm curious, like, where his perspective will be on it. Will he agree with his dad's notions of, like, right, sacrifices have been made for the greater future? So, because Hope likes him, so she feels bad about it. But if he shows his true colors, it might be a similar thing to Leo and how Leo and the Lila thing played out. So we might see some aspects of that. But I did like the conversation between Leo and Felix, because Felix is like, right, like he is like, right, this is my opportunity to kind of give it back to you because you gave me a life and it's time for me to kind of put it to use. But then Leo's like, you already have. And he's like, I will get you back to Will. That way you can start living your life for yourself, because he owes Leo everything he's ever done. Is because he's like, no, like, I owe you, Leo. You gave me, you saved me. You gave me a life. You gave me a purpose. But Leo's like, no, like, you've already paid that back tenfold. Like, go, I'm going to get you back to Will, and you get to just live your life for yourself and own, like, you and him. Like, you get to live your life by your own means, not just like trying to fulfill like some debt you feel you owe me. So it does seem like Jadis, it's still hard to say whether or not Jadis sees Jennifer the way she should, because I'm always scared every time. I'm like, I don't know if Jadis actually sees through Jennifer. Is she trying to like give Jennifer enough rope to hang herself? Because the whole going after Indira's people right now, Jennifer's like, what, there's no investigation? Jadis is like, no, that'll take too long. So the fact of the matter is, like, certain rules in the CRM code book allow them to pull the trigger on this type of thing, which Jennifer was kind of hoping against. But they were lining people up, and luckily Will was there, and then luckily Dennis and Silas show up. Some people obviously in the community still get killed at the end of it all, but because Jennifer was hoping to get to some of like her fellow like CRM soldiers, that maybe some of them will believe what she'd have them backing her up. But because even she doesn't know like how this is all going to end, because they were like, what are you going to do? And she's like, maybe I can kind of lead a revolution of my own too. But you know, it's like, if they find out about you, Jennifer, they will kill you. So she's like, yeah, maybe like the end result will be me and Dennis. Like, once again, she's hoping, but we see at the end like Dennis is leaving everything up to Silas, and because Dennis got shot, so hopefully it's nothing vital. Hopefully he's okay. I'm scared because I'm like, I actually, despite everything, I don't want Huck to die. I want her to be able to live, but I'm scared because I think Jadis will kill her if the opportunity presents itself. Hell, even her mom might be the one to pull the trigger on her, just to be like, no, like, just to submit, like, yeah, like, she's all about this. I mean, because hell, even Jadis wasn't too happy about learning that the lieutenant colonel, that Elizabeth made a deal with Indira. So I'm curious, like, when it's all said and done, what is Elizabeth going to say when she comes back, knowing what Jadis did? And Jadis might turn this on Elizabeth, being like, no, this is your fault. You're the one that kind of led to this situation because you gave Indira, you know, this, because it left them weakened. You left us in a situation where I guess we're helping them. So it wasn't this CRM ploy that I think Indira's kind of taking it as, because she thought, like, right, I gave my life to the CRM to kind of use against me. It would always be leverage. It's always, because it's, you know, whether that was Elizabeth's intention or not, where it's like, right, you're always going to feel like you owe us, because without us, your life won't end, just because your life is so precious to you and you want to be there for your community and children, or just want to live in general, that natural instinct to not want to die, then you're going to keep going. You want to keep everything copacetic. So there's a layer of it. You could be like, it potentially could have been Elizabeth planning that out and intentionally planning that, or maybe it's just like, no, Elizabeth just legitimately was just trying to help, you know, and it just kind of played out this way. Who knows? You never really know what's really in Jennifer's heart, because not Jennifer. I think I keep saying Jennifer. I meant Elizabeth's heart. And for Elizabeth, it is this, like, you could tell, like, some of this does get to her. She tries to act like the good soldier, but it does weigh on her, but she believes the cause is too strong and too important to kind of give up now, so they keep moving forward. But Jadis has got people waiting at every exit. It's like, right, don't even arrest him. Kill Dr. Bennett, or him. It's time for to, like, make the Bennett suffer. Kill some of the scientists. That way you scare the others into submission. They've led safety far too long. It's time for them to kind of get a rude awakening to, like, see how nasty things can be. So we'll see how things proceed. Because once again, they do have Mason as their hostage and their leverage. So once again, we don't know how things are going to play out for Huck or Dennis. Hopefully it all works out, but, you know, it's The Walking Dead. No one's really guaranteed and safe in this universe, because anyone can get it at any point in time. So it's just depending on what kind of, like, impact you want to, like, cause, you know. So that's why I'm like, I don't think Dennis nor Huck is going to survive, and if one does, I think the other one won't. Or maybe it'd be like, I get the feeling like Huck is going to self-sacrifice herself, like blow up, like she'll be around a whole bunch of CRM soldiers and in a building and decide to blow it and everything up inside, just sacrificing herself. I could see her doing that, but I don't know. I hope not. I hope like everyone gets to walk away from this. But what is walking away from this? Because Jadis talked about it, like, right, they wiped all the research, so everything they had that could help in the future is gone. So they also can't kill all those scientists because they're the only ones with the research. So, because if they don't get them back, they're going to have to start from scratch, and some of those scientists will be dead, so you can't pick their brains for, like, what they knew. So, it's like, that's why she doesn't want to immediately kill everyone. She just wants to kill some of them to put them in place. Like Bennett and his daughters are, the Bennett family are smart geniuses, but the problem is they are too much of a liability. They've already corrupted it, so she's got to root out the rot, which once again doesn't seem like she knows that it's Jennifer included, but we'll see. She definitely has her suspicions, but it seems like Jennifer's been able to duck it for long enough, so we'll see if that continues going forward into the next episode. I'm excited, but also worried to see what happens next. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.